It's not uncommon to hit refresh after reading an article on the Spurs or an NBA news page and get a new rumor or scenario where the Spurs are trading picks to move up in the draft or players and picks to grab a veteran player. After a couple months of every guard, both prospects and vets, being the team's target, the narrative recently seems to have switched over to wings and, in some cases, power forwards, namely Markkanen and Zaccharie Risacher. The Risacher news seems to be gaining the most steam as there's more and more reports of the Spurs and Atlanta in trade talks for the Spurs to move up to number one. And then most recently, Risacher being in San Antonio to work out with the team. It's hard to really know or get a good feel for what teams are actually trying to do or what are just due diligence by them, or in some cases even smoke screens to try and throw off other teams as to what their plans are. The Spurs are and have been one of the toughest teams to read, as they seem to never openly talk about what their plans are down the road in short term in any way. And most of the rumors and reports seem to be just pieced together opinions from other reporters or other teams leaking information about being in talks or Spurs shopping picks. Risacher is a 19-year-old, 6'9" French wing and arguably the best shooter coming into this draft. There's definitely other really good shooters, but his length, his defensive skill and awareness, experience playing against pros in Europe, combined with his shooting, seem to make him stand out over most of the other players in a not particularly star-studded draft. When I've watched highlights and games that he was in, I can definitely see the potential that GMs are excited about, but honestly, I see a lot of need for improvement in about as many areas, especially on ball. His shooting numbers seem to differ quite a bit from catch and shoot to creating his own shot. A lot of that's ball handling, in my opinion. Defensively, he seems to be a very good rotator, moves off of the ball very well on defense, and does a great job on help defense, which are two things the Spurs drastically need. He seems to have trouble staying in front of a lot of ball handlers, especially smaller ones, and he doesn't seem to do well, like I said, handling the ball on his own to create his own shots. He's only 19, so there's plenty of time and room for him to hone his skills, develop in areas of weakness. Obviously, he'll add. He's only, I think, 195 pounds. He'll obviously add to that and get stronger, which will be big for him. The Spurs are one of the best organizations at game planning for the future and executing that plan. But if we look in recent years, I don't feel they've been able to really get the expected potential out of a lot of these prospects. There's reports right now that everyone not named Wemby or Vassell are available for trade options. To me, that just means that all your other first-round picks like Sohan, Keldon Johnson, Branham, Wesley, guys like that haven't lived up to the expectations, at least as of yet. You go a little farther back, Derek White, Lucas Samanik, Josh Primo, Lonnie Walker, those guys were all first-round picks that, different reasons obviously, just didn't work out, and they're not even on the team any longer. There's a lot of potential reasons why, I guess, maybe just not being able to develop some of those guys. Maybe some of those guys' playing style doesn't match well with the system the team's trying to run. It could just be a poor job on scouting on any given year. It could just be as simple as you didn't have Wemby before. Superstar type centerpiece for your organization takes a ton off of how much and how fast young guys need to develop. So, who's to say that some of those guys wouldn't look a lot better had they had the benefit of developing and being introduced into the league on a team that had a guy like Wemby. If the Spurs saw enough growth in Trey Jones in the offense during the second half of the season, or if they have plans to add a veteran point guard after the draft, before the trade deadline at this time next year, this trade and draft pick makes a lot more sense to me. It also makes a ton of sense if you like Keldon, in my opinion. If you like him long term and you can let him play his natural small forward position, not keep moving him around, let Risacher get ready, and now you've got options regardless of who ends up starting, who ends up backing the other one up. But you've got two very different play styles, which we've seen Pop likes to move things around according to the team he's playing to try and create the best mismatch. I personally feel that the point of attack defense is the biggest need for this team right now. To me, a very good to solid defensive guard that obviously isn't an offensive liability would allow the other four on the court to really focus on their guy, their position, and not have to chase and rotate nearly as much. And I feel guys like Wemby, Keldon, Sohan, they're more than capable of handling their defensive duties much better if they're not having to help or worry about that point of attack defense. We've all seen what the spacing in the NBA can do for European players. You look at Luka, Joker, obviously Wemby. I think Risacher, even if he doesn't improve immediately, he still benefits from that because of, like I said, the catch and shoot aspect, things not being so crowded where he has a little trouble handling the ball, where things aren't so bunched up and he's not having to try to dribble through traffic, for instance. Like I said, his length and IQ on defense make him a very good team defender, but I think he'll struggle pretty heavily trying to defend one-on-one against a lot of the even mid, but definitely up to top tier small forwards in the league. Obviously, the Spurs have forgotten more about basketball than I know, but my feeling is that you've got 2 top 10 picks in a mediocre draft to address the point guard position, the point of attack, and add, a spark plug to this roster. I don't feel that Risacher addresses either of those needs, and I don't know that the current ball handlers on the team play into his biggest strength, which is catch and shoot. Now, there's more than enough draft capital over the next few years to take a shot on him if the Spurs see something that makes this move, in their opinion, a home run. I'm personally hoping this is mainly hype and the Spurs not showing their hand, doing their job of chopping to see what they could potentially get for those 2 picks. I wouldn't hate this pick if they can keep the 8th and add a guy like Devon Carter or possibly a Dillingham. I don't know about his defense, but even Topic has probably fallen because of his injury. If they think they can keep him healthy and see him as a foreseeable long-term point guard of the future, I wouldn't hate pairing Risacher up with any of those guys if it rotates that way. But either way, I feel that Castle is the best player and fit for the Spurs at 4, and then a guy like Salon or Connect or what you got as far as wings at the 8 spot could really advance the rebuild and address multiple situations instead of just going all in on, in my opinion, what would end up being a role player or at least a developmental piece going down the road.